Hi, I'm Jim Perdue of Perdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Perdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Perdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Perdue.com.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, was an Arizona toddler killed by his mother in a Texas motel room? Or was he given away in a secret adoption and is alive today? We'll review the Peacock series, Where is Baby Gabriel? Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband, love of my life, and favorite nurse, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Rebecca, how you feeling? You coughed on cue.
I didn't mean to. I am feeling 20% better today, which is huge, because as you know, this has been a terrible week.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So thank you very much for asking.
You sounded just like this on last week's show.
Well,
yeah.
This was a very different kind of week. I'll talk about it in a second. Because also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca. And yeah, Piper Green. Like I haven't been working on book 3, but I did a library talk with my target demographic, which is retired ladies who love cozy mysteries.
Yeah.
And they want a book before they die. So I guess I have to get back to writing.
By the way, that's also Kevin's target demographic.
Oh,
literally, every time we go
Kevin.
to like some restaurant, there's always retired ladies who like recognize him from when he was on TV. That is legit your target demographic.
Well, so long ago, young people know me.
Did they recognize you from your report from when the old man in the mountain fell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Weren't you on New Hampshire Chronicle, young man?
They come up and they say, I loved your work, Andy.
This is not, I loved your work, Fritz.
Fritz, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 That would be sad.
And finally, our resident doubting Thomas, the author of our City Trilogy of novels, host of the Strange Arrivals podcast, our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, and UFO believer, Toby Ball. Hey, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
Where are the bodies hidden, Toby? Where are the alien bodies?
In people's imaginations, I'm
Are they
afraid.
in Yucca Mountain, Toby? Are they in Yucca Mountain?
Yucca Mountain. That's where we dump the nuclear waste. Why would
And
we keep
hide the
them there?
bodies.
Yeah.
That's why, because it's going to disintegrate them, Toby.
Oh, yes. Well,
Yucca Mountain is like important spot for certain indigenous peoples.
Yes,
and we
I know.
decide to
Yeah.
put nuclear waste
as we
there.
do.
Yeah.
As we do. And so that's where the alien bodies are as well, I'm thinking.
It could be. Who's to know?
I would just say, not for nothing, but I thought The X-Files was a great show. Till the end, till it jumped the shark. Toby, I'm so jealous you got to talk to Chris Carter, who
Yeah.
everybody knows is the creator of The X-Files. And so, man,
I even liked it when they cast What's-His-Face after David Duchovny left.
Robert Patrick?
Yeah, I love Robert Patrick. I did. Sorry, I did. I liked him.
No, he's fine. He's cousin Oliver of The X-Files.
He's fine.
I didn't hate him.
Yeah, Annabeth Gish.
Yeah, I didn't like her.
No.
All right, so Kevin, this is obviously a brand new shiny episode of Crime
It
Writers
is.
On.
It has that new show smell.
So what is coming up on the coming episodes of Crime Writers On?
So on Thursday, we've got a Crime Writers on Classic, we're going to be going back to our first review of Missing Richard Simmons.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That was a real controversial one.
Yeah, and if you listen to last week's after show, you know how Toby Ball, how he came down on that episode.
We all remember how Toby Ball came down on that one. That was famous.
Then on Monday, we're going to be looking at the new series from Max. It's called Last Call.
Uh-oh.
And it's based on the same case as Elon Green's book, Last Call.
I believe it's based on Elon Green's book, Last Call.
Well, I hope that he's involved in it because they ripped off both the title
he is.
and the crime, so he's got to be involved. Yeah.
If we hate it, Elon, we're still friends. I'm just saying it right now. That is the thing that I always tell people. You have no choice. If we hate the show based on your book, we still have to be friends.
Look,
that's a thing.
Having been there, I know you have no fucking control over what they do on TV. They're like, oh, thank you for doing all this work.
We left the book on the deep dive.
You heard me ask.
you
you
loved
heard
it.
me ask Matt Scher on this very show, if we ever hate one of your shows, are we still going to be cool? And he said, yes. That is a rule. It is a rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say something briefly about COVID-19 before we start the show?
Sure do. Yeah.
I know it feels like the pandemic is over for many people. It is not. There's a new wave happening right now, and I just fell victim to it. Never had COVID this entire time until just now. And I had it, and then I didn't have it, and then I had it again. Apparently, it was the same case of COVID, by the way. Rebound is just the same case. So I had it and had it again. And then after I had it again, when I was clear of it, I had 5 days of complete and abject misery. And I just want to tell everyone out there, if anyone you know and love says they're exhausted and have brain fog, believe them. It is true. It is a phenomenon. I was asleep for 7 hours a day for 5 days and couldn't read, couldn't watch TV, couldn't drive, couldn't think, couldn't talk or do anything. And my poor husband had to live our whole life for us. And I would just like to thank you publicly right now, Kevin, for doing that. Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
So
you're welcome.
don't substitute saline solution for your COVID pills.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And if people say they have
I
brain
didn't
fog,
believe her pain, Toby. That was the issue.
I still have the brain fog in a big, big way. And I never really understood what that expression meant. But it is real. And believe people when they say they have it because it is real.
It's like living life as a man.
It's like living life as a toddler. I cried many, many times. I still don't remember. I had the word recall thing is still, it's real. It's terrible. Okay. Speaking
Have you been
of,
doing Wordle during this? Has it affected your Wordles?
Has it affected your world?
I've tried.
That's horrible.
The only game I can do is that new stupid New York Times one that's so easy.
Spelling bee?
It's called Connections.
Connections.
It's so stupid and easy. That was the only game that I tried to do during the brain
You
fog.
do the mini crossword. It's
Maybe. But the Connections game is so stupid and easy. It is so easy that like literally a child could do it. So I was able to do that.
See, this is why you got to do like your kids' video games when you're feeling like this.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah. I
don't
just
have
don't do any of that
you
stuff.
might excel at Mario
The only
Kart.
kind of TV I was able to watch successfully were my soap operas because I was watching The Young and the Restless the other day and a character came on the screen who's been on the show for 20 plus years. And I generally know who she is, but I couldn't place her name. And on soap operas, the way that they orient new viewers to the shows is they say characters' names over and over and over again in every scene. And so the
it's
minute
like for dementia patients.
yes, the minute she walked in, they were like, Phyllis. And I was like, yes, Phyllis. And I was like, this is why I could love watching these shows when I'm sick, is because like, it's like I'm a toddler. It's wonderful.
This all reminds me, because you weren't feeling well, that you didn't go to the neighborhood block party.
I did not.
So we used to have a block party.
I was afraid I wouldn't remember who people were.
There's an old couple that used to organize this block party for everybody in the neighborhood, all the side streets and stuff. And that stopped like about 10 years ago, and they moved on. Did they die? I don't remember. They got out of town.
Well, one of them died.
One of them died. The other one
Moved,
sold the house. So a bunch of other neighbors said, we're going to bring it back. So Rebecca was sick. So I went. And of course, I don't have COVID brain fog. I just have guy brain fog. And so
he doesn't know anyone's names.
yeah, Rebecca came and said, like, who is there? And I was like, Dave. And she says, do you mean Brian? And like,
there's no Brian. No.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
You said Jim. I'm like, he moved 2 fucking years ago. He was not there. And you were like, next door? And I was like, Dave's. And you were like, yes. Kevin didn't know our next door neighbor Evan's name for 5 years.
No, I don't feel bad, Kevin, because I have like, there's only like one young couple who lives in my neighborhood. They're renting. They don't even like, they're only temporarily landing in my neighborhood. And I stopped at the brass band concert the other night and I saw the girl and I was like, shit, that's my neighbor. And so I was like, hey, and she was all excited. She's like, I play the trombone. Like, how can I get in the brass band? And I was like, I'll connect you with someone because I know someone. And then I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't know your name.
At least you fessed up.
And she was like, it's okay. We only know you as Bricky because you used to have a vanity plate.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
Yes.
So.
Oh, well, it's not just you, Kevin.
Yeah.
So it's not just Kevin's solidarity, man.
All right.
Well, I feel like we've put this off long enough, huh?
Let's get to it and talk about the thing that we've obviously been avoiding talking about, shall we?
Do it.
Should we drop that first clip now, Kevin?
If we must.
All right, leading off.
As Elizabeth fled town, she was caught on CCTV without her precious son. The question everyone wants answered, where is baby Gabriel?
No one has seen Gabriel Johnson since 2009 when his mother took the 8-month-old from her home in Arizona to Texas. In the middle of a custody dispute with her ex, Elizabeth Johnson told him she smothered the baby and threw his body in the garbage.
What kind of person would tell their former boyfriend and the father of their child that they had killed the baby because of them? I mean, that's a level of cruelty that is off the charts.
When she returned home, Elizabeth had a different story. She said she gave Gabriel up in a black market adoption in San Antonio, a transaction facilitated by a couple who'd been trying to adopt the child themselves.
Was Tammy willing to do anything for a baby? No. I already wouldn't buy a baby. I already wasn't ready to adopt Gabriel.
The Peacock series, Where is Baby Gabriel?, explores the theories around the child's disappearance. Was he murdered? Is he living with a new family? And what role did interloper Tammi Smith play in his fate? Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from Where is Baby Gabriel? So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Now, Kevin, I think we should also mention that we're talking about the media around Baby Gabriel here. So if we take a lighthearted tone about this very sad case, it is about the media and not the case itself around this very sad story.
You mean the thing we don't review the crime.
Exactly.
We review the documentaries.
Because this is an absurd documentary in many ways, right?
It is. I mean, I think we should have a little discussion about our theories of the crime, but I think we also have to talk about the...
Yes. And
which
Toby,
is what we always do. It's the thing that we do.
Yes. But Toby, your first comment about this is that it is, quote, dismal. What do you mean by that?
Well, I didn't like it very much. It doesn't have a whole lot to recommend it, quite honestly. It's just the people who they interview don't seem super insightful. There's not anybody that you can really like. I mean, they're trying to push the father, I think. It's sort of like the likable guy, but I could be misremembering this, but I think there's at one point it's sort of alluded to the fact that he's got this kind of history.
Yes.
And so
Judge told him to grow up for some reason.
And he says, I cleared up all my legal issues but we never know what those legal issues are.
So it kind of seems like he's being sort of made into the good guy by omitting a bunch of shit. It's a slog. It doesn't feel like anybody has anything really to say other than to just kind of talk about it, except for the most ridiculous things. Like they keep showing this one news reporter who's like, I don't know what kind of person would tell their father, their baby, that their baby's dead. I don't think anybody would do that. And then I realized, well, maybe she would. It's like, all right, whatever. Like, do we really have to get you to say this?
Yes.
And then,
because they don't have an answer, so they have to fill their space.
So the whole thing, like, you're just listening to these not very interesting people talk about this case that, it doesn't seem that complicated, but I guess maybe it is. But even like the DA they talk to, he's got his theory, but it doesn't seem to fit the facts, and he's not willing to explain why he has that theory. So it's, I don't know. There's just nothing to hold on to.
I know that it was hard to get somebody from Team Elizabeth. I don't think they were able to get anybody on cam. So they have to go forward. But they went so much with what a great guy Logan is. It's like, I didn't know you could light up a room when you're still alive.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to create memories for when you're dead, Kevin?
Yeah, it's just...
Jeez, Kevin.
When this thing started, they went so hard in with the horrible, hussy, harlot psychopath that Elizabeth was, right?
It was insane.
That I was like...
Which could be true.
Later you find out, so Elizabeth herself says some shit on tape where you're like, okay, she's not so great and clearly has a lot of issues, right? But they go so fucking hard with everyone being like, she's a monster. She was horrible. Hussy, she hated her child. She's the worst. She was just insane. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, this is the most misogynistic bullshit thing I have ever seen in my life.
He was still just a happy baby. He lit up when he saw Logan. He didn't light up when he saw Elizabeth, but he would light up when Logan would come into the room.
And then you have Logan, who's just sitting there, and he's like, well, I just, it was just real crazy there for a while. I'm just like...
It was the best father ever.
Okay. I did not. I was like, this is not fair. This is definitely not.
No, it wasn't. No.
Yeah. So Laura, your first note is, this is super depressing and a bit of a slog for me at times.
So see, Toby, slog. The word slog has come up twice. I think there's something to that.
Yes.
The challenge for me in this is that I was like, okay, Laura, just get behind this. This is going to be one of those traditional true crime documentaries. But based on the title, there's a question. You're hoping there's going to be an answer. And I think it became pretty apparent as we're going along that nobody really knows what happened. And it didn't feel to me like there was actually a credible theory put out there that I could latch onto or something where I felt like resolution. So I just felt frustrated. All this time has passed. Obviously, this poor baby has never been found. There's a couple things that could have made this interesting. Genetic genealogy saves the case. Okay, that would be an interesting story.
How?
Tested on what, though?
Tested on
I don't know. Somebody puts themselves, say that he's alive.
Who are you going to test?
But it's too soon. It's too soon. I'm just saying. It's too soon. We're not going to have genetic genealogy for at least another 6 years until the kid's like 20.
Because we don't know where baby Gabriel is. Spoiler alert.
The part that I think I found actually interesting in this was when we had like the B-roll footage over the hotel and the information about this hotel where these illegal adoptions take place. To me, that was really interesting, that it was taking place on the scale that it was taking place and that it was so widespread and so well known.
That they say.
Yeah, that they say.
Well, it's like the hotel
that the web
in like
sleuth says.
Murder Mountain out in Humboldt County where everybody's dealing weed. Like we all know what's happening at that hotel. I would like to know more about the illegal adoption industry. I would like to know more about that. I think that's interesting. The rest of this, I was just like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. So, Kevin, what do you think about the fact that there's a web sleuth who's just an expert in this show? Web sleuth who is just...
We'll only use her first name.
Yeah, that's her only, like... credential.
Miss me with that. I mean, right? Just like the complete lack of credibility of, I don't want to say everybody in this, but as far as like a critical, like, why the fuck? Really? I mean, web sleuth should be in scare quotes because it's like, what is this person actually bringing? It's almost embarrassing. Well, the things that I looked up, it's, it just...
According to my latest Wikipedia search.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I did a Google Maps, and like, here's the name of the street.
There's no way that particular park was just, hey, there's a park. And I know this because I used to live close to there, and I used to take my own son there. And when I first moved to San Antonio, I didn't know that park existed. But that park was planned. It's just not a park that anybody would know about. It's just not.
I mean, I guess that's part of my feeling about web sleuthery in general and sort of the self-possessedness of some of the people that do it.
Don't diss Becky Heath, though. She did solve the Bear Brook case.
No, I wouldn't, But she also uses her full name.
She's also a librarian, yes, who did actual research.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out why Jessica would not use her full name. Is she afraid that she's in danger? Or is it that she doesn't want so many people to know who she is because she's going to get inundated with requests? Or I don't want my coworkers to know I have this hobby. Or is it because her family is terribly ashamed of her? And my one question is, why do they keep interviewing people in motel rooms?
The same motel.
Well, it could be a different motel, but it's like there's the bed in the back. Like, sit on the edge of the bed, and there's an ice machine behind you, and the little fucking map that shows, like, in case of a fire, down the hallway to the left.
They had a budget constraint, Kevin.
Usually they rent like the conference room or something like that, and they move around. They put
or an Airbnb, with actual rooms in it.
I don't know. The time I filmed for like Investigation Discovery, I was in like some weird Chinese restaurant on the side of a hotel, and they kept tripping the breakers because they had too many things plugged in.
Oh Jesus, yeah. I did one in the summertime. I had to keep turning the air conditioning off, and it was
a nightmare.
Oh my God. Anyway, Toby, what were you going to say?
Oh, the only thing I could think about with that motel was whether there was actually a car that was up on blocks in the parking lot, or whether they had brought that in there and set it up.
Visual.
Toby loves the visuals in this documentary.
They had literal tumbleweeds going across a road at one point. They have that shit where people are just like walking along the sidewalk. There's Logan. He's going for a walk. There he goes.
Yeah. But there was also, Toby, a lot of like the B-roll didn't match what was going on at some points. Like they needed something because I think a lot of it was there's like the telephone call, which I hope we get into later between Tammy and Elizabeth. And so we have audio. So what are you going to do for visuals? And, it was like some guy taking out the trash or people at the drive-thru at Wendy. It was like the outside of a prison. It seemed like a lot of it didn't sync up to anything.
Much like our business section. I'm just kidding.
Well, you might as well go for it, Kevin.
I guess, as soon as I stopped, they said, I got to think of a way to get into that.
Here you
it's
are.
Almost I looked at the time, it's business section time.
Here you are.
Oh, thank you, Toby, for the assist. Yeah, it's the business section here. So let's talk about what we got going on Patreon.
Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, to join, as you know by now, hopefully, and you heard in the first 3 seconds of this episode, you go to patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. That's Rebecca and I. We're the partners in crime, and we have great stuff for you. If you sign up now, you could get all new episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad-free. Also, we've got great behind-the-paywall, exclusive only for you patrons podcasts, including the Crime Writers on After Show. And we have Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Toby just finished his discussion of The Stranger Beside Me. That's the Ann Rule book about Ted Bundy. And Toby, everybody wants to know, what should they be reading on the beach this week so they can be caught up for the next deep dive?
It's a book. It's called In the Mouth of the Wolf by Catherine Corcoran. And I've not started it yet, but I think it's about reporters in Mexico who were targeted by drug cartels.
So also we have cool things like Leave It to Bricker, in which Laura Bricker solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire. Laura, you have promised us an epic new episode of Leave It to Bricker. What's going to happen?
I Leave It to Bricker, in which I investigate how listeners of Crime Writers On in different time zones have become best friends thanks to Leave It to Bricker.
You're not going to find out what happened to Baby Gabriel? For fuck's sakes, Laura. I thought you were a private investigator, for God's sake.
Well, I am, and I have access. I have to tell you, I have access to these like really cool databases now, and I was like, had some witnesses I had to find recently. I'm like, I'm never going to find them, and I punched in the names. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Oh my God. I'm like the power, man. But wow. I don't think I can find Gabriel.
But Laura, I thought you were going to do some cattle rustling or something.
That. Oh, yeah, that. So I've got 2 upcoming Leave It to Brickers in the works. Yes, in the month of August, I will be fulfilling my bucket list goal of rounding up cattle on horseback.
Amazing.
And how many cattle, you might ask? It would be 4.
Hey,
wow.
I got it.
Toby went rock, paper, scissors and pulled up the 4.
We don't think it's a herd of cattle. We think it might be called like a cattle
quad?
club. Like
It's a squad.
It's a quartet.
Yeah, it's a squad.
It's a cowtet.
Yeah, I recently met some. This woman I know knows this is something I've wanted to do, and she introduced me to this Western riding barn. And I was like, "Oh my God, can I round up the cattle?" And they're looking at me, and I'm like, "Please, please, please." And they're like, "Okay." So stay tuned. I said, "Do I get to gallop?" And they said, "No, you have to start slow." Because the cattle can be sneaky.
Just like Tammi.
right.
So which one comes first will be announced soon, but I have to leave it to Brickers. I am investigating right now.
All right. Well, I hope you had your tape recorder going when you were doing all that cattle rustling or herding or whatever.
I'm getting a special outfit. That's really what it's about, Kevin, is I need a special outfit for my cattle roundup because I haven't done it yet. It will be happening on the first Sunday of August.
All right. Well, you do that, and then you can write it off your taxes. Speaking of writing it off our taxes, Rebecca and I do a podcast right here in our house.
Yes.
It's called Married with Podcast.
Yes.
And we recently did a live episode.
It helps us write off our whole house.
The whole house. Laura came on. She talked about a little bit about her new adventures on the dating apps. We also had a bunch of people who had relationship questions. And one of them was a woman who just got into a new relationship. And she wanted to know how often and in what manner to engage with her new guy on the social media. Should she be liking everything?
Should be commenting? I thought you were going to say something completely different, and I was there.
What?
I thought you were going to say like something totally gross.
Like something dirty?
Yeah,
like
and I was like, I was there. I don't remember that.
Put her mouth around the... No, come on now.
I just didn't... I don't remember. I was like, I don't remember this girl. Go ahead.
No, that isn't what you... No?
No, I don't... I just don't... Keep going.
You don't know what was happening at that. Also, we have a new episode of These Are Their Stories out. It's the Law & Order podcast. We're covering the episode that starred Chevy Chase, and it was ripped from the headlines of that Mel Gibson traffic stop where he was drunk and he said a bunch of anti-Semitic things. And so... in order to portray like a very unlikable person who's had a history of saying things that are problematic and getting pulled over for drunk driving.
They picked Chevy Chase.
He's like, I can work with this. Action!
So it's Chevy Chase playing Mel Gibson playing Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there has been an accident...
Are you a Jew? You're a Jew, right? I should have known they'd stick me in a room with a Jew cop. I'm not talking to a Jew. I know the law as good as any.
Does he know he has the right to remain silent?
I'm Mirandizing myself.
And just want to let you know that you can always sign up for our newsletter, crimewriterson.com. Put your email address there. We're going to shoot you on Thursday the latest newsletter, and it's got all sorts of cool stuff, unless we take the week off to go to the beach. And then it'll be later than that.
Yeah, which we're doing. All right. So, Kevin... do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week? Did I remember to do that?
You did it right.
Yes.
Our Patreon patron saints are Cheryl Horde and Paula Pryor.
Cheryl, Paula.
Bless you.
Bless you. Thank you for supporting us. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone who doesn't, and thanks to everybody who listens to the business section, whether you support us or not. We really appreciate all of you. I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out, Kevin. Is that all right?
Do it.
Do you ever meet someone who seems kind of off? Whether it's a creepy neighbor or random phone number that keeps calling you, Truthfinder has you covered. You can search for people by name, address, phone number, email, and more. Truthfinder can be especially helpful for running confidential background checks on anyone you're planning to meet from online dating apps. Go to truthfinder.com/podcasts for a special offer. That's truthfinder.com/podcasts to access your special offer today.
Hi, I'm Jim Purdue of Purdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Purdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Purdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Purdue.com.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
Back to the program. We need to talk about our friend, Tammi.
Tammi. She's shady AF, right?
Yeah. Toby, Tammi, thoughts?
She's pretty weird. She seems like one of those people who probably should talk about a third as much as they do. Not out of some misogynistic thing, but just I feel like the more she talks.
I can't believe you thought I would judge you for saying that. I would not judge you for saying that about Tammi, Toby.
The more she talks, like I feel like the more trouble she gets herself into.
It seemed like she just wanted to throw him at us, like she couldn't get rid of him fast enough. I made sure that we had that paperwork signed. I made her go with us to the bank and notarize it because I'm a mother and I don't know how any mom can just hand over their baby and just say goodbye, you know? So I wasn't going to take my chances with her.
I think what's sort of incontrovertible is that she was trying to get baby Gabriel and she was using super sketchy means in order to do that, trying to cut Logan out of the situation so he couldn't get him and then, you know, putting pressure on Elizabeth to do it. Yeah, I mean, she's what makes this whole thing go, right? I mean, if she hadn't been there, like none of this stuff, I mean, I'm not sure that Gabriel would have been any better off, but it feels as though all the things that Elizabeth does, they all sort of stem from Tammi trying to get Gabriel. And I guess we'll talk about what our thoughts are of what might have happened later. But yeah, I mean, she seems like a sketchy character. I don't know why I don't know why her husband didn't come on the show.
Because he knew when to shut the fuck up.
I get the impression that they might not be together anymore.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought, but who knows, right?
Right?
I mean, I'm surprised because the journalistic rigor which went into this documentary was such that I thought they would have explained where he was. But Tammi herself, she's like dollar store Cruella DeVille, right? She's just like this low class
discount Cruella.
Like, I was thinking, you know, I have the baby. You know, she's just so fucking weird.
Discount Cruella DeVille. That's a really descriptive.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Wow.
Minus the Dalmatians.
I mean, it's like the baby, like, I'll have your baby.
What did you make, Laura, of the jailhouse phone call between Elizabeth and Tammi? Because I couldn't tell who was bullshitting who. I'm going to be completely fucking honest with you. Well, no, because they're both full of complete fucking shit.
I think listening to it, and gosh, I mean, I've had to listen to some jailhouse calls in my time. It's always fun when they're having romantic interludes, but this one, I hate to say it, but I feel like Tammi sounded more believable than Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I can't hide all of this anymore, your involvement in this and all the plans you made, and you're completely denying everything and saying you weren't
Wait, what plans did I make? What are you talking about?
Set it all up. They were your friends.
No, they weren't.
Yes?
Then who are they? Then what's their name, just for my friends?
I don't know. You set it all up in San Antonio.
I just love any time that we have jailhouse calls, because here's the thing. You know you're being fucking recorded. They have a thing when you come on, and this call is being recorded. Like,
well, wasn't Elizabeth working with the cops to try to get Tammi to confess shit? Wasn't that part of the situation?
Yeah, I also kind of got the impression that this wasn't from jail, because it sounds like the recording is being happened. I don't know this.
But
that was my impression.
I feel like when we were listening to it, I feel like I thought I saw the jail in the background, but maybe I'm blanking it out.
Well, that's the fucking issue, right?
Like, I feel like that the jail was in the background. So it was like that time that we had that show we were watching, and they were having like the flashlight tag messages to the guy in jail, and we're like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? When the guy was outside. So I assume if I see a picture of a jail but anyway, either way, the conversation, Tammi unfortunately sounded more believable.
Well, it's because Elizabeth was just saying, you know what you did.
You know what you did.
You know what you did.
Come on, Tammi.
She's just trying to get her to say something that she obviously doesn't know what she's supposed to say.
It's classic gaslighting.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
I kind of felt like the only way to save this entire thing would have been to start with that and just have it be completely confusing, and then be like, how do you make sense of this conversation, and then work your way back. So there'd be some like sort of mystery, and you're kind of like, who are these people? What's the relationship? Whatever. Because otherwise, it's just kind of sad, and the people are sad, and it's just there's just when it was over, I was like, what am I supposed to think about this? Like, why did I watch this?
Because we made you watch it.
And why was it 4 parts? Or whatever, however long it was. Was it 3 parts?
It was 3 parts, but
it felt eternal.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was those 3 parts were longer than the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right?
The other thing that I found really confusing was, I think there were 2 Australian detectives who came.
I think there was
at least
just
one. Yeah,
I was mesmerized by that part. I was like, so there's not enough business in the entire country of Australia?
I think there was one, but he was shot at 2 different points, so he looked very different the 2 times they shot him.
But I thought, like, one time the attorney general was like, yeah, well, what he said was bullshit, and we told him we didn't want him around anymore, so he left, and they show him leaving. And then they have this other guy who seems like he, like, has actually done some work. I mean, he's like the one person who's sort of supporting Elizabeth, I guess. And I was like, is that the same guy, or is that a different? Did they have 2 different Australian detectives come over to San Antonio to try and figure this out? And if it was just one guy, why didn't they like make that clear? Because then I think the attorney general's like, well, it sounded like he dug up some stuff. And it was like, all right, I don't know. The whole thing, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just sort of indicative of the thing that they weren't like, well, we went over there and we talked to this guy you just saw in the shot. Or remarkably, there were 2 Australian detectives, but I just wasn't sure what the hell was going on.
It doesn't help that the whole thing is told out of sequence over and over and over again.
Yeah. First of all, tell me, I didn't get your thoughts on the private detective who was credited as being Gabriel Johnson's private detective. I'm like, Gabriel hired a private investigator?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I think there are some structual problems, like with the storytelling.
The missing baby hired. To be clear,
exactly. Yeah,
his own private investigator.
Find me. Well, I mean, quite seriously, I don't think there are any beats through the thoughts that when it just goes. It's like a run-on sentence, right? There are no sort of pauses that organize different time periods or whatnot, and then they'll say something like, yeah, well, at Tammy's trial, and you're like, what, fucking, who's Tammy?
Wait,
or
why did Tammy
on trial? Or there'd be like a B-roll of her in handcuffs, and you're like, wait a minute, the woman with the shirt, that's her. Like, it was just really...
She looked so different at the time of her trial, and now it was unclear.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we're on a bus going to San Antonio. It was very hard to follow. I mean, in addition to these points that you're making about, well, who is this and who is that? I don't know how, but apparently everybody else figures out how to tell the story in different acts, and that it just seemed like the whole thing was just one long rant about who lit up a room and who is horrible, and I smothered him till he turned blue.
This is the one thing that struck me. Logan recorded all these phone calls with Elizabeth, right? Which, by the way, I'm not saying that Elizabeth wasn't clearly extremely troubled. Clearly, Elizabeth was extremely troubled during this period in her life. And I don't know, I can't speak to where she is now or what she's doing now. Clearly, she's out and she's married and whatever. But he's taping their phone calls, and she's saying some obviously disturbing things on their phone calls, and she's obviously extremely troubled. I find his behavior on the phone calls also to be kind of troubling. And that's also not addressed. It's like he's just gathering like information about her. And there's at one point in the phone calls where she's telling him that she murdered their baby, right? And he's just like, why would you do that?
Something you can kiss my ass and you're not going to find his dead little blue body until I'm on a plane leaving the country.
It just feels like this constant evidentiary gathering, like this kind of thing happens all the time. He's just trying to get evidence, continue to gather evidence in a court case against him that retrospectively is being used to sort of like prove facts that aren't actually in evidence to like put together this narrative and this television show. It was weird, right?
Yeah, well, and I think you see this a lot in cases where you have like, I don't want to say this isn't like child, but
it's a domestic dispute in many ways.
Yeah, domestic cases, and what she was eventually convicted of was like interference with child custody, not. So you see some really bizarre things happen in those kind of cases where the people on both sides get so entrenched in their particular version of what they think happened and their desire to advance the case to their side that they start to do things that they think are going to be helpful to their case, but that aren't necessarily helpful from a legal standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just because they get so mired in this sort of custody case psychosis of like the way that they're thinking of what's happening. And I think that these phone calls were a really good example. Like
they're going to prove something, not like I'm going to call the police fucking immediately because
it's like I'm going to call freaking Jared from Subway and make him like talk about a bunch of shit that now is not admissible because I've been wiretapping. But people get into really strange mindsets when they get into something like this. And you see behavior that you normally wouldn't see because they are triggered and they are frustrated and they start doing things that just don't make sense. So yeah, absolutely, Rebecca.
Yeah. That's what struck me. And Toby, they're always trying to find that the people who made the show are trying to find logic in like completely absurd situations.
Yeah, I don't, they spend a lot of time talking about how irrational she is and she's crazy and stuff. And then it's like, well, why would she do this? It would make no sense for her to drive all the way to San Antonio. If she was leaving from Arizona to San Antonio and she was going to kill her baby, she would have killed him right off the bat if he was screaming. It's like, what are you even talking about? Like, it just...
You just said she was crazy.
Right. Of course. Like, that's the whole thing. If you're crazy, you're not like following logical patterns. So anyway, I mean, it's just, it's sort of part and parcel with the whole rest of it. I think it's just not very well thought out. They're just trying to make her look as bad as possible. And then being both crazy and then logic would dictate that she would have done this or whatever. So whatever. At that point, it's just like it.
The Ring story.
The whole
they're trying to assign logic to the Ring story.
Yeah, there's the Ring story.
I traded my baby for a ring.
But why couldn't
big red ruby ring?
Like, it seems like wouldn't be that hard to find out if Tammy actually owned a ring that was worth $20,000.
Right.
How
a
hard
ring
is
like that also is like, it's not necessarily untraceable either.
Right. And they, probably had insurance on it or something. I mean, who knows?
See, you're right. They're talking about she's, irrational and all this other stuff, but she has the wherewithal to have this great cover plan. She's leaving to go to San Antonio specifically for a black market adoption. And the fact that she gets there is the first thing she does to cover her tracks is she lets everybody know the baby's dead, so don't look for him. I killed him. And then realizes later, maybe that wasn't a great cover story. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell the truth, which is that, no, I just gave him away for adoption. And I think that that's fucking nuts. And that everybody here is like on an episode of Ancient Aliens trying to push a fucking theory that's just ridiculous.
But you know what the proof is, Kevin?
What?
She ordered so many pizzas.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
Why would she have ordered so many pizzas if it was just her in the room, Kevin?
God, fuck. She only likes cheese. What the hell was it?
If it was all cheese pizzas.
Yeah. Pineapple on a pizza? Murderer!
But on the other hand, she's, quote, crazy, so she can't operate by any logic at all, but she would only ever order cheese pizza.
The problem with it is that the only voice we get for what is the simplest explanation is the cop.
Who interviewed her when she was on heavy drugs.
Well, no.
Heavy medication.
No, I mean, we have the assistant, the guy who was the detective, and now he's the assistant chief in San Antonio. He's constrained by what he can say, but he's not pushing this idea like everybody else seems to be, that the baby's still alive and he just got sold for a ring and a bunch of magic beans to Cruella DeVille, and they just vanished. It just is just the simplest thing. She went and she killed the baby. That's my theory of the crime.
Probably.
I don't know. I don't have a theory. I think we have a better chance of finding out what happened to Maura Murray than we do of finding out what happened to Baby Gabriel.
Yeah. There's no ruby ring involved in the Maura Murray case, though. But wouldn't it be great now? Basically, all you can do is you could kill somebody and then get rid of the body and say, no, actually, I didn't kill them. I just helped them move on to a new life. They're now living a whole new life in Canada.
They went to a farm upstate.
That's where they are now.
Yeah.
And everybody says, oh, okay, well, we can't prove they're dead, so we'll have to go with your story that they moved with a new secret identity.
What does it tell you that we're talking this way about a piece of media about a lost or dead child? Like,
that they didn't set it up correctly?
It's really sad. I mean, it's sad, right? This isn't even a fictional dead child. This is a real missing or dead child. And this is so poorly done.
Now we're going to hell anyway, so.
It's horrible. It's just horrible.
Do you ever meet someone who seems kind of off? Whether it's a creepy neighbor or random phone number that keeps calling you, Truthfinder has you covered. You can search for people by name, address, phone number, email, and more. Truthfinder can be especially helpful for running confidential background checks on anyone you're planning to meet from online dating apps. Go to truthfinder.com/podcasts for a special offer. That's truthfinder.com/podcasts to access your special offer today.
Hi, I'm Jim Purdue of Purdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Purdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Purdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Purdue.com.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out What Happened to Baby Gabriel on Peacock? Laura Bricker.
Ooh, the suspense.
What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for What Happened to Baby Gabriel?
Oh, I mean, you guys know.
I'm already writing it down.
I just loved this. This is a big thumbs down. I'm sorry. I watched this all in one day, and I just sat there, and I was like, it was just a slog. And I felt like you were saying just now, Rebecca, this is a story that's really sad, and it's about this baby, and it's a horrible case. But because of the way it was set up, I just felt such irritation for the storytelling that I didn't connect with that part of the story, which is really what this documentary was supposed to be about. So it was a thumbs down.
Toby Ball, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for What Happened to Baby Gabriel?
This is awful. I'll give it a thumbs down. You know, when it was over, I was like, why did they make this? I mean, the people who are in it to provide commentary aren't very interesting. There's no real insight. You know, there's nobody that you're really like in their corner for. I mean, they really try and manipulate you into taking this one person as like the sort of good guy in the situation, but there's just like enough hints that he's not what they're making him out to be, that it's hard. The first episode is just a huge pile-on. So there's nothing to recommend it, quite honestly. Like, I can't point to anything and say, well, you know, everything else was bad, but this part was good. It's like, there was nothing good. So all that being said, I am a huge thumbs down. Do not waste your time. I kind of wish we just done like 7 consecutive business sections on this podcast. Probably would have been better.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Thumbs down on this. I think essentially this was supposed to be a true crime investigation, and it really was more like a conspiracy theory that was just pushed by everybody. We sometimes have these documentaries that feature unreliable narrators, and I feel like we have unreliable narration. I can't take seriously what is being put forward. I won't say the documentarians, but the production itself, by the people it selects to feature and the things that they have. There's a couple of really shady characters in here that are kind of like, wow, and that in another situation might have been a little more intriguing, but I was just yelling at the TV. I couldn't follow along what was happening because of the way they structured stuff. They make reference to things out of the timeline that just they're suddenly like, wow, what?
That hasn't happened yet.
That hasn't happened yet. Who's that? I'm supposed to know them.
Do we know him?
We don't know him. And yeah, so I think it was a big old mess. So thumbs down.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a thumbs down when I heard the title.
Jesus.
What happened to Baby Gabriel? I mean, what happened to Gabriel? Why do they have to say Baby Gabriel? There's a picture of a baby on the cover of the thing, right? Like, okay, so that was clue number one. This was going to be really bad. Clue number two was right at the beginning when a news reporter says something like, it's really, really bad when something bad happens to a baby. It's the worst kind of story. I'm like, okay, here we are in a story in which that is considered to be like elucidating commentary, right? This is bad. This is bad, 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 bad. The only parts that are good are watching Tammy's crazy eyes look into the camera. And I'm not a person who likes to use the word crazy loosely, but those are some crazy damn eyes. Yeah, this is bad. It's really bad. And it's a story that's very, very sad. And we should be more circumspect and sad about it. But I can't even be sad about it because this thing was made so poorly. Yeah, it goes in the pantheon of bad things that we've watched, and I do not recommend it. Huge thumbs down for me for What Happened to Gabriel, a.k.a. What Happened to Baby Gabriel. Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of
the Week.
The Crime of the Week. The British singer who made headlines after she married a ghost says she's getting a divorce.
He lit up a room.
Bricardi says she fell in love with Eduardo, the ghost of a Victorian soldier, when he burst into her bedroom one dark and stormy night. Wearing a black wedding dress, she married the apparition in a Halloween ceremony. That's when things started going south. She says on their honeymoon, Eduardo repeatedly got drunk and became very possessive. Bricardi says her spirit spouse had an unhealthy fascination with Marilyn Monroe. She claims Marilyn's ghost was at her wedding, and Eduardo has often returned home smelling of Chanel No. 5. Bricardi says she's not hiring a lawyer to dissolve the marriage. She's going to return to the church and perform an exorcism.
Oh.
Panel, they said they'd never last, and they were right. What can Eduardo do to save his marriage? Laura Bricker, what do you think?
He could put on some polo cologne instead. I don't know, change it up. I mean, yeah, the Maryland thing's got to end.
Toby Ball, what do you think Eduardo could do to save his marriage?
It's just put the seat back down on the toilet.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you think?
He's got to try to get it in.
Oh.
Because it's just an apparition.
That's
true.
Like,
find that G-spot.
He's got to consummate this relationship.
He's got to, yeah. But he lit up her room.
But he didn't light up her hoo-hoo.
That's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, one more piece of business. Do we have a cat of the week this week?
We have a dog of the week this week. Hold
Yay,
on,
my favorite animal.
I know. But this is one, I know you don't like these ones, but so Michelle Womble.
No,
I know.
A dead animal. No.
I'm sorry. And
whatever happened to Michelle's dog?
Nothing. Well, it's died. So Stuart also, it's another Stuart. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but Michelle Womble, she lives down in Florida on the Space Coast. She and I became great texting buddies one time when I was on a trip down there. She was giving me all the local information. So I was really sad. So yeah, one time cat of the week, Stuart. So he's been a cat of the week. He crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
Boo.
He loved a good bark box and an occasional sonic blast. And there is a hysterical picture of him with his face in the Sonic Cup. I mean, he more than loved it. So I'm sorry, Michelle.
I'm sorry too.
I'm sorry. Sonic is going to lose their number one customer now.
That sucks. Bye, Stuart. Boo. Boo.
Okay, send me some non-dead animals next week.
Please, people. Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you with their non-dead animals to be cat of the week, how can they find you on social media?
They can find me at Laura Bricker.
Toby Ball, what about you? How can you be found?
At Toby Ball NH on Twitter and at Toby Ball 603 on Threads.
People can tell you where the alien bodies are buried. What about you, Kevin Flynn?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn. I think it's X now. I don't know. It wasn't my idea.
It's fucking Twitter. And if you want to follow me everywhere on social media, you can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On and everywhere else at Crime Writers On. And please join our amazing community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. We also have a regular old Facebook page. Just go there and join the group by the pinned post. Get episodes early and ad-free at Patreon. patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. You'll also get the Crime Writers on After Show, Married with Podcast, Lara Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. The executive producer of this program is Nurse Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement where we also mastermind shady adoption deals to take place in public parks in exchange for very ugly jewelry. Or do we? Mwah. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. But what happened to Baby Gabriel?
I started off caring, and by the end, I didn't give a shit.
in crime media.
Hi, I'm Jim Purdue of Purdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Purdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Purdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Purdue.com.